We're going to be joined by Dan Raviv. I want everybody to, including Dan, to listen to this and give a watch here as we take a look at cut 8.
Jewish state was resolved in 1947 in Resolution 181, where there are more than 30 mentions of Jewish state. In addition, Chairman Arafat in 1988 and again in 2004 confirmed that he agreed it would be a Jewish state. And there are another number of mentions, but those are the sort of most important acknowledgments thereof. I think it's a mistake for some people to be, raising it again and again as the critical decider of their attitude towards the possibility of a state and peace, and we've obviously made that clear.
All right, folks, that's John Kerry selling out Israel as Israel has never been sold out before, in my opinion, saying, hey, Netanyahu, you don't need Abbas to say it'll be a Jewish state. Arafat said it, in 88 and 04. Don't worry about it. Unbelievable. Joining us now is a man who I've been an admirer of for many, many years. I've spoken with him once on the air at WOR. Dan Raviv. He is a national correspondent for CBS News and the author of a great new book, Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. I hold that up in my hand. Hello, Dan Raviv. How are you?
Hi, Steve. Joining you by Skype and happy to do so.
Yes, I love that. Let's go to Dan. Now, joining us now is Dan Raviv. I could do the CBS News bit. Anyway, great book. I mean, it's right up my alley, and it's such an important book, and it's so interesting. But I want you to tell me, I know Abbas met with Barack Obama today. We'll play that bite in a minute. But what'd you think? I mean, when Kerry said that, that, hey, Israel, don't get so hung up on it being called a Jewish state. I mean, what more could this administration do to diss Israel?
Well, I can see why you're saying that, but in my view, having really watched and covered a lot of Middle East negotiations, both sides, they sort of dig in their lines. They go for maximalist demands. That's not my way of saying that Bibi Netanyahu, the leader of Israel, is making an unfair demand. I'm not saying that, but I would even turn it the other way. When the visitor at the White House today, the Palestinian West Bank president, Mahmoud Abbas, says, no way will we agree it's a Jewish state, you probably scratch your head and say, why is he saying no way? In my opinion, it's because at a later stage, he'll probably give in on that. I wouldn't take it too seriously. Now, when John Kerry says it's not important, it's offensive to a lot of Israelis. It's obviously offensive to you. But I think Kerry is looking mostly at the flow of the negotiations. And as a mediator, he's saying, please, nobody set up any tough obstacles because this job is plenty hard enough.
Yeah, but he just gave cover to Abbas for Abbas to say that.
Yeah, but you got to think about, Steve, whether maybe the point is reasonable. That is to say that the PLO, which had been a terrorist organization, and writing my books about Israeli intelligence, my God, of course we have that. We know about the Munich Olympics massacre of '72 and hijacked planes and all sorts of killings. But, they vowed that they were changing in the 1990s, 20 years ago, and the PLO accepted Israel. And at the time, by the way, Arafat even said, as a Jewish state, and various U.S. mediators said there'll be a Jewish country and a Palestinian Arab country. That seems kind of fair. So right now, I don't know, the Arab side is being kind of obnoxious about this Jewish label, leading to fears that the Palestinian hope eventually is to make peace with the state of Israel, but then have lots and lots of babies and overwhelm the Jews. And then the state of Israel will be an Arab country. I can see why Israelis fear that.
Well, the so-called right of return would overrun it immediately, and you'd have a two-state solution.
Let's point out there never will be a deal between the Palestinian Authority and the state of Israel without the Palestinians giving up the right of return,
and without acknowledging that it's a Jewish state, unless you get some left-wing Likud person in there. But Steve, never going to happen. I mean, labor person, never going to happen.
I predicted, Steve, that the Arab side, the Palestinian, is actually going to give in on that. I smell just kind of a negotiating position where Abbas is being stubborn. You think the Obama administration is throwing Israel under the bus. You know what the basic message is. Kerry says to the Israelis, and there certainly are a lot of Israelis who embrace this, that with all that's going on in the Middle East and all the turmoil in the Syrian Syrian civil war and Egypt's unrest and all of that, that this is a good time to make a deal. You may have an impression one way or the other, but Kerry and Obama's argument is this is the best time to seize a deal, minimize the obstacles. Let's make a deal where Israel has secure borders and living in peace.
Well,
a lot of Israelis like that.
Secure borders, the 67 borders with half of Jerusalem and the West Bank in Arab hands. I mean, suicidal is more like it. And here's what I'm afraid of. I think you're right. And I've suspected, and I've talked to Caroline Glick and others about this. I think it's a charade. Eventually they'll say, okay, Jewish state, and it'll be, oh, what a moderate, what a man. But he won't mean it. It'll mean nothing, just like the Arabs' philosophy is and Arafat's philosophy was, shake hands, make a deal. When you want to break it, you break it for your own benefit. So
maybe so in the modern world. In the modern world with a modern state, I don't think a state of Palestine, such a nation, would get away with what you're saying. But there may be aspirations on that side to make a deal and break a deal. And anyway, a deal would be troubled because the Hamas faction in Gaza will never be part of a deal. You got unbelievable problems, but you can see why Kerry is really almost desperate, very anxious to make a deal. Everyone should lower their demands, make a deal. But you know, the most
Israel has no demands. Israel's demand is recognize us as a Jewish state, which is what we are. It's a boss who has a list of demands, preconditions before he comes to the table.
Steve, I don't want your viewers and listeners to think in any way I'm anti-Israeli, which I'm surely not, and I'm of Israeli parentage, etc. But you know I've covered the Middle East for years. So let's be fair, that Israel does have demands that you may feel are justifiable, that the Palestinian nation be demilitarized, that Israeli troops can stay along the Jordan River, at least for a period, and, you know, other things about the Palestinians where they can and can't go in the shape of their little state. So don't say they don't have demands. Well, but they favor the Israeli argument.
Well, that's okay. But don't say the Palestinian Authority is peaceful. I mean, this Abbas every day honors another terrorist bomber, suicide bomber. He plants wreaths at their graves. I mean,
isn't that something about the political environment or the culture there? Because at the same time, I'm looking today at a statement by Israel's, very pro-peace Nobel Prize winning president Shimon Peres, saying that Mahmoud Abbas favors peace. I'm glad we're negotiating with him.
He's a little delusional, and he doesn't represent the Israelis, and he doesn't represent the Israeli government. Thank goodness for Israel. But this man, he glorifies suicide bombers. The whole society does. You know that, Dan, better than anybody. And they teach their kids to kill the Jew and to take Jerusalem with their blood. They do it through their TV kids shows. They do it through their school books. They train to go to terrorist camps. It's a sick society.
But Steve, do you therefore reject them? I mean, Yitzhak Rabin.
Yes, I reject any peace with the Palestinians. You cannot live in peace with the people who teach their kids to kill you.
But Rabin and Sharon and others negotiated. Why did they do that, Steve? They are Israelis living in Israel. They want to at least give peace a chance.
That's peace has been given a chance. The peace process is to destroy Israel, P-I-E-C-E by P-I-E-C-E. Otherwise, the Palestinians, like Golda Meir said, when they start caring about their kids' lives more than they care about killing Israelis and Jews, then they'll make peace. But right now, they care more about killing Israelis and Jews. Anyway, listen, we went off the beaten path, and the book is great. You broke the story about, here's another sick thing, about how Obama insisted that Israel stop killing Iranians' nuclear scientists. I mean, the whole thing is bizarre, but everything is in the book. Spies Against Armageddon, Inside Israel's Secret Wars. It's a fascinating look. If you care about Israel, if you care about the Middle East, if you care about America and the relationship with Israel, by Dan Raviv, who has been in that region for so many years. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. Very lively discussion.
See you again soon. Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care. Dan Raviv, ladies and gentlemen, CBS News national correspondent. Now, when we come back, it's the panel, and I'm sure we'll discuss this among other issues. Bill Hoffman will be back, and Seton Motley will be here as well as the Molesburg panel takes to the air on Newsmax Television.